Well, hello, friends. You know, we just passed the phase of what has been called the supermoon, and just before and after that beautiful time of year, we were able to get out and hunt some of the fields nearby here in Massachusetts on one of the islands off the coast. And within about 10 minutes of where we live, there are 2 or 3 fields, farm fields, that we can get to and hunt. And I thought I'd just show you a brief overview from a few of these recent outings. You know, sometimes we just have half an hour, maybe an hour, but the fields are close by. We get a good rain, we take off, see what we can find. Here's a nice quartz scraper in one of the close by fields. When I washed it up, I was a little bit surprised to see what a good quality of quartz it is. It's really translucent, kind of a speckled crystal quartz. Really turned out to be quite a nice piece. And then back in this same field a little later, we waited till we had a little rain. A couple days we came back out, and right where we had walked before, a couple of things had washed out. Here's a nice little red quartzite point that I think is probably related to the Orient fishtail variety. Get a good look at it here. Take a couple of still shots in my hand so you can see both sides of the point, the side that was exposed and the side that was still damp in the soil. And then just walking across the field a little bit further, came upon another nice little stemmed point that hadn't been there a couple of days before. So it was nice to find another one. That was a good morning to pick up a couple points. I'll take a second for you to get a good look at that. Both sides, just fresh as it came out of the ground. It was wonderful to see a crop like this that grows all year long, even in the late fall and into the winter. So here's a shot in the hand, and then both of those points from that particular morning. So after another couple days, stopped by back this same field, and I had some company this morning. Little cat came out, decided to wander along beside me, and the next thing I know, the cat led me up to a broken point. I think it possibly could be a Merrimack stemmed point. The cat really wanted it, but it wasn't a treat, not for the cat anyhow. So I put it in my pocket, headed on out. So here and there, little by little, over the course of a couple weeks, as I said, before and right after the supermoon. And then just not too far away from this particular field, in fact just a stone's throw away, is another field. And I was finding quite a bit of quartz this particular morning, some quartz flakes and chips, and right next to it was a broken biface of quartz. So I put that in the pocket, kept on trotting along in this little field, and next thing I know, this actually hadn't been plowed recently. It's just been washed down after the harvest. And I found a tip. This is made out of a rough-looking material we call Lakatong argillite, which really has its source in New Jersey, and it weathers very badly. All the flaking scars disappear after a while in the sand or along the shore. But here you get a view of it. You can see what a rough material it is, but hey, it's still part of the story. And then after another day or so, we headed back to the first field we had looked at originally, and again had another light rain, and something that I'd missed the last time showed up again. And this particular field is just a small little field that had been plowed just 2 years ago for the first time in over 20 years. Again, it's a small field, but it's been paying off little by little. And right behind that nice little triangle point, just taking our time, looking carefully, something else was showing. I wasn't sure what it was. Oh, let's see. Oh, no, it's a broken piece. Broken base, I think. Could be a tip, but it looks more like a base, and it could be related actually to our Eastern Agate Basin early Paleo tradition. We found 2 or 3, maybe 4 in this same area, so that's a possibility. You see it here along with the triangular point that was picked up just before it. And then there's a third field within 2 minutes of these first 2 fields we looked at. It hasn't really been plowed up, but there are a couple of rows where they removed the black plastic that they kept over the row crops. They removed it, it rained on. Found a nice looking steep edge scraper, complete scraper. I love scrapers. Sometimes people aren't too fond of them, but I think it's a very important part of the story, and actually one of my favorite tools. And here you see what I found with some of the flakes, and as I washed them up, I found that one of the larger ones actually turned out to be a nice edge tool made out of something we call Hingham red felsite. Has its source up in Hingham, Massachusetts, at some outcrops there. And so you can see from these photos the edge work on this. So I was always happy to wash things up and then take a look at them. And then had another little rain, headed back to that same field that we were just looking at where the row crops had been exposed, and right where I'd walked the previous week, found a nice triangle point, broken like many of them are. Many of them are missing a tip or an ear, and then we followed on along, and next thing we know there was another one. You get a chance to see this one. It's just missing a tip. It's all there but a very small part of the tip. And a few steps further on I found a quite unusual stone. I'd never seen anything quite like it, and it seems to be a stone of 2 different hardnesses in a matrix, but the way it's eroded, it even appears that it's been slightly grooved, and the symmetry of it, the size of it, I don't know, it's very interesting, very unusual, and I really think it possibly could have been worn as a pendant. But it was an unusual find, so I sure kept it. And then here's some of the stone pieces we picked up, a little quartz flake knife, the triangular point. And then finally, back to the original field that we started at just before the supermoon. We came back one more time and found an interesting biface. We call these U-bases, but you see how it's been flaked at the base. Looks like it could have been used as handheld adze. Certainly a nice working implement. You get a good look at it here. And so as you can see, we had some interesting times out here and there, short trips. All of them were short, but they paid off a little bit, and we were always happy to get out. There's nothing quite like it. And I thought here at the end I'd show you a frame of points from this one particular field, the first field we looked at and the last field. It's all the same field, a little field, the one I mentioned to you that hadn't been plowed in about 20 years. But we're glad the farmer turned it over and that he gave us permission to keep an eye on it. He worked it up once more here at the end of the fall, planted some winter rye. So it's going to grow in, but again, we were able to get out and find a couple of things. And this is just an overview. I thought you'd like to see it at the very end. So get out there, keep hunting. There's always something new. It's not always the best piece you'll find, but every one of them tells a story. Every one is great. Thanks for watching. Have a happy year.